Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your home for the final game of this season. Oh my god, I can't believe it. It's the final game week preview video I'll be making of the 2019-20 season. I'm pretty darn excited to get into this. So today we're going to be talking about some tactics for this final game week, what you should sort of do. Maybe you're chasing someone in your mini league and maybe you just want to hold your position. Let's see what kind of tactics you want to be using depending on what you're doing. The motivation factor in these final games. So obviously some teams have something to play for, some players have something to play for, maybe chasing golden boot, some teams maybe trying to avoid relegation, this, that and the other, so we'll be talking about that. And then finally, there's one game I think we're all looking at and deserves its own section to talk about today, and that is the Man City versus Norwich game. It's going to be a big one. So let's move straight in and talk about some tactics in this final game week. So we've got two types of tactics, I would say, in any given game week really, and it's called chasing and shielding. Chasing is when you're trying to chase someone above you in the league, maybe you're trying to chase an overall rank, maybe you're only like ranked 500,000th, you want to push on to 250,000 or something, you need something big. Or maybe you're shielding, you've got a really good position in your league, maybe you're clear in your mini league by 10 points, something like that, which you're a little bit afraid about, so you just want to shield it and make sure you keep and hold that position as well. So we're going to be talking about those types of tactics. So first of all, we'll do chasing. So if you're chasing, you want to push yourself up those leaderboards. Taking a hit is fine, but don't overdo it. So, I mean, if you want to take a hit, it's a -4. I don't think you need to worry too much about taking that -4. If you start taking a -8, I'd be a little bit worried. -12 for one game week is probably never a good idea. So I wouldn't advise that. But if you are taking a hit, ideally try and do that for someone you're going to captain. So if there's a particular player you want to bring in, but you have to take a hit in order to bring him in, make sure you want him in so badly that he's also a guy you are going to captain as well. Target players with very high ceilings for your transfers. So you want to be going for like a Sterling, a Salah, Kane, maybe even a Jesus or an Aubameyang. These players that have super high ceilings are capable of these like 20-point hauls, because we're going risky, we're going all on the line, and we're going to need someone to make a difference. They might not end up making a difference, but you want to put yourself in a position where you have that player who could make a difference to your game week. You can also double or triple up on certain teams. It's sort of a high risk, high reward type motivation. So for example, you could go all in on Burnley defence. You could pick 3 Burnley defenders. You could go Pope, Peters and Bardsley, for example. And if you have those 3 players, if that one team being Burnley, gets a clean sheet, you've just instantly got yourself 18 points. That's sort of a baseline, and then potentially bonus points on there. So that is a real differential, having all 3 players from one certain defence, for example, or maybe even 2. That counts as a differential as well, I would say, because whilst a lot of people will just have one player from each individual team, maybe 1 or 2 of them will get a result. But Burnley, if you go all on Burnley, and I'm using this as an example because it's quite a good one you could be going for, you know, you're all in and you could be picking up a load of points on that one. So that would be pretty good if it pays off. But it's, you know, high risk, high reward. You could say the same thing about like a triple City attack, for example. I think that would be a very good differential triple up, although I'm not sure it's that much of a differential. But it's a good triple up to go for, indeed, if you are chasing. And then after that, you want to be adding differentials, slash playing differentials if you have them already on your bench, for example. So you've got the ultra differentials, so players who are going to be a bit of a punt, really high risk, and maybe not particularly high reward, but they could make a difference, such as Trezeguet versus West Ham. He's been scoring a couple of goals recently. Callum Wilson, the main man at Bournemouth. You know, Bournemouth got that motivation to try and stay up. He's playing Everton, and so is Junior Stanislas, who's been playing quite well as well. You've got Chris Wood versus Brighton. Could get a goal there, maybe. Chris Wood's been in fine form since he's returned from injury and seems to be he's going to be the main source of goals from Burnley, although Burnley don't typically score a hell of a lot of goals. And you can go for Lacazette versus Watford as well. Lacazette, super low ownership, you know. He has been starting recently. He has been making a couple of contributions recently as well, so he could be quite a nice differential as well versus Watford. And then you've got like sort of more normal differentials, players you wouldn't necessarily consider to be differentials, but in the grand scheme of things, they are. So you've got David Silva versus Norwich. He's not a super high ownership, so he's still going to be a differential. Got Aurier versus Crystal Palace. He's looking good. He's one of the players I'm looking to bring into my team. Got Antonio versus Aston Villa. I know Antonio's ownership has gone a little bit loopy, and Aston Villa might be a slightly difficult fixture. But I still think he counts as a sort of semi-differential. If you've got him in your squad, maybe just play him. And then Burnley defenders versus Brighton and Hove Albion. Peters, Bardsley. If you've got one of them, one Burnley defender, it's not really going to be a differential, but doubling up is going to be a differential. And then you could also look at league differentials. So look for your league. Who around you owns what players? There might be some surprises there. So it might be something like the top 5 in your league don't have Salah, and even though Salah is not a differential player, you wouldn't say, but if no one around you has him, then you know he is a differential in the context of your league. So you could be going for someone like him, or whoever else it might be. Maybe it's a Sterling, maybe it's a Kane. If no one around you has that player, go for him. Why not? It could be that difference maker in your league. It could be that no one owns a certain player, so you can go for him. And then we'll go on to shielding now. So maybe you've got a position you're happy with, you're top of your leaderboards. You know, maybe you've got that top 100k finish that you just want to protect. You're currently in the top 100k. You want to stay there. I think I'm in this boat. Possibly I'm in top of my mini league. I'm in the top 1% of all players at the moment, so I want to kind of stay there. So I'm going to be shielding. So when you're shielding, you've got to identify what is your priority. Are you wanting to hold your position in the mini league, or are you wanting to hold your position in your overall rank? Which is more important to you? If it's your mini league, look at your rivals' teams. What players do they have that could hurt you? Do they have a Kane in their team? Do they have a Sterling in their team? And you don't. If the guy beneath you has Sterling, you don't. He captains Sterling. Sterling gets a 20-pointer out of nowhere. You're suddenly in real trouble. So identify these players that could hurt you that you don't have, and use your transfer or transfers to try and get in that player, or multiple players. If you want to protect your overall rank rather than your mini league rank, you've got to think about what players in general scare you, which is more of a generic answer. I could probably tell you the scariest players right now, and I've already spoken about them. It's the big hitters. It's your Sterling, Salah, Kane, Jesus, Aubameyang, Mane, those kind of players. Those are the scary players in the overall rank. I'd probably say the scariest player of all is Sterling. But they're players that you've got to think about that are owned very, very broadly. So you could think about KDB, Bruno, Martial. These are kind of dangerous if you don't have them, just because their ownership is so high, even if they're not quite as scary. So these are players you could think about bringing in as well. And I would say this is spread your assets. Don't double up on a defence. There's no need to do that. It's too much risk. Don't feel pressured into doubling up on a particular attack. You know, if you already have it, you already have 2 Man City attackers. Don't feel too much pressure to go for a third one. And try and avoid taking a hit unless it's for a player you're really, really worried about not owning. For example, for me, that's Sterling. So I'm going to take a hit to get Sterling, and I'm going to captain him as well. So it sort of makes it a little bit more worthwhile. But in this situation, if you're shielding and people around you, people slightly below you, they're all really, really going for it. These guys are going to be taking sort of -4s, -8s, and their risk is going to be so high, and it could pay off, but the likelihood is it won't. So you protect yourself by not taking all of these minuses. So those are the tactics I'll go for. If you are fortunate enough to be on a free hit, obviously you can use these tactics a lot more liberally. And you could, if you're on a free hit and second place is creeping up behind you, and you know they don't have a free hit, you could do a real shithouse move, and you could just literally focus on the players that they have that you think will score the most, and do you over. And otherwise, just pick the best players. Just pick the best players. Don't think about differentials. Just pick the best players on a free hit, or copy your league rivals' teams. Which, it's a bit of a dodgy move. I don't think I'd feel too comfortable doing that, but you know, it's a proven tactic. It does work. So there you go. Those are the tactics you should be looking at in this final game week. So let's move on to who's motivated around the Premier League going into this final game. So you've got some teams with something to play for, and I'm talking European competition and relegation. So the teams motivated for European competition are Manchester United, Chelsea, Leicester, Wolves and Spurs. And then the teams desperately trying to claw themselves out of the relegation fight, only one team can survive. It's Aston Villa, Watford and Bournemouth. Now, if we can make things even more interesting by having a look at the teams with something to play for, but they're playing against teams who have absolutely nothing to play for. So Spurs have something to play for. They're playing against Crystal Palace with nothing. Bournemouth, something to play for. playing against Everton, who have nothing. Watford have something to play for. Playing against Arsenal, which although they don't have anything to play for, that is a difficult game. So I would maybe discount this as an automatically good fixture to target. And then you've got Villa versus West Ham. West Ham now safe. They like to bring in a couple of younger boys on the last day of the season, so they might play a bit of youth, allowing Villa to claw themselves out of that relegation scrap, potentially. And then you can look at some Villa players. Who's going to score? I think I'm looking at Trezeguet at the moment. I probably won't bring him in, but he is the standout player at the moment. Grealish has sort of gone off the boil a little bit, hasn't he? And then we've got players with something to play for. And there's quite a few of these, actually, more than you might think. So you've got the Golden Boot contenders. Vardy playing against Manchester United, tricky one there. Ings versus Sheffield United. Sheffield United, I would say they probably don't have anything to play for, possibly. So you could back Ings against that horrible, horrible defence, possibly. Aubameyang versus Watford. He is still in the race for the Golden Boot. He's got 20 goals. He needs to get 23 to catch up with Vardy, and he's playing against Watford. So that's a personal accolade that I think Aubameyang is going to be targeting, and he's got a good opportunity there as well. So Aubameyang is an interesting one, even if of recent games he's not been looking so great for FPL. And then you've got other personal accolades. So Sterling. He's playing against Norwich and he's going for 20 goals. He's been very open about the fact that he wants to get 20 goals this season. He's got 19 so far, so only one goal away. If a penalty comes Manchester City's way, you would think that Sterling is going to be the man to take it. Salah, he's on 19 as well. He wants to get 20 goals per season for a third consecutive season. I think it's third consecutive season. And he's against Newcastle with nothing to play for, so this is another really good target, Salah there. So going for 20 goals on 19 so far. And then you've got a few players on 17 goals as well. I'm not sure if you count them as going for the 20. I suppose if they got a hat-trick, that would be pretty good. But you've got Jimenez on 17, Kane, Mane, Martial and Rashford. Some of them I probably wouldn't be looking at. Martial and Rashford I don't think have got a shot, really. Mane, I think he'll struggle. Kane, could happen. Jimenez, not sure. But Kane maybe there, could be going for that 20 goal, could happen. And then you've got KDB against Norwich. He wants to break the assist record. He's one away from equaling the Premier League assist record. So a really good opportunity for him there, as long as he's not playing too deep as he often is. You've got Nick Pope against Brighton. He's going for the Golden Glove award. Nick Pope's currently drawing with Edison for the Golden Glove. So I think that's a really interesting one. And Burnley have also come out and said, I think it was Chris Wood, came out and said, against Brighton, we want to defend. We are going to go for the clean sheet and we're going to help Nick Pope get his Golden Glove award. What an achievement that would be for him indeed. So that is the consideration there. So Nick Pope looking pretty good. Or, any Burnley defender in general also works for that particular personal accolade. And then David Silva, it's his final game in the Premier League that he will ever play. Is he going to want to go out with a bang? Is he going to be on a penalty if Sterling's got to his 20 goals? Free kicks, perhaps? Yeah, I think there's definitely potential for something from David Silva as well in his final Premier League appearance. So those are the big guns with the big motivation. So these are the kind of teams / players we want to be targeting. And any sort of player outside of that, for this very valuable final transfer / transfers, I wouldn't even bother. So you need to make it count. So you need to be taking a look at all of these things indeed. So there we have it on the motivation factor. And finally, we're going to have to talk about Manchester City versus Norwich. We're going to have to talk a little bit about Sterling as well. There's been rumblings, hasn't there? So Manchester City versus Norwich. The game we're all looking at is the best attack versus the worst defence. So we've got to go for attack, really, haven't we? Pep has said outwardly that they want to get to 100 goals. They're on 97 goals this season so far. They need 3 more for that big 100, and what a fixture to be able to break that record. You know what? They could even literally beat their best ever goal scoring season if they get 9 or 10 goals. It could happen. It really could happen. I wouldn't put it past it. This really is that big of a game. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. 3-0, 4-0 is more likely, but you never know. This could be a cricket score. So there are also players going for individual records, as I've said in there just a moment ago. So Sterling, KDB, David Silva. So there's a couple of interesting ones there if you want to look at that sort of factor. Then people say you can't predict Pep. You can't predict the lineup Pep is going to line up with. But I think over the last few game weeks, there's a pattern has emerged. So I'm going to try and divide these players into buy, hold or sell, depending on whether I think they're worth getting in, holding on to, or just you need to swap him out for someone else. So, buy Sterling. Sterling's going to play. He's going to play. He's going for the 20 goals. He would have spoken to Pep. He didn't play the full night in the last match. So, really interesting one there. David Silva didn't play in the last match. It's his final game of the Premier League. There's no way he doesn't play in this game, surely. And Mahrez also didn't start the last game. He only played a few minutes sort of at the end of the previous game, so against Watford. So, you'd expect Mahrez to start. It is the simple rest, rotate factor there. So, Mahrez is going to be playing, I would very much expect. Hold KDB, he played 90 minutes in that last game, which is why he's a hold and not necessarily a buy. And I do think for a similar plot price, Sterling is preferable. Jesus, again, played 90 minutes last game. I don't expect him to play 90 minutes again. He is a slight risk rotation. But at the end of the day, Man City have one striker. They're a team that they've shown that they want to play with a striker. They don't like playing with a false nine. They won't play with a false nine unless they absolutely have to. And I don't think they have to. There's plenty of break after this final game, so it might be a very strong team out. And then defenders, I guess you could hold them. If you've got Kyle Walker, for example, I imagine Kyle Walker would probably play in this final game, so you could hold on to him. Laporte probably play as well. Outside of that, perhaps a little bit more risky. I would prefer to be more invested in the attack. If you've got multiple defenders for Man City, if you've got an Edison and a defender, for example, you're a lunatic and you need to sort that out for this final game. But generally speaking, an individual defender is not the worst thing in the world to have. I do expect a clean sheet. Could have attacking contributions potentially. Not sure, but it could work out. And then for sell, we've got Bernardo Silva and Foden. Bernardo Silva, even when he is playing, and he has been playing a lot of football, I do expect him to get a rest, or at least not play a full match. He's just not been contributing right now, so I would far rather use a similar amount of money for someone like Mahrez or David Silva right now. Just do a straight swap, easy peasy. And Foden, he played last game. This is his game off. Foden only plays once every other game. So I know that might not necessarily be 100% true, but in a situation where you want to be capitalising on this game, you want to minimise the risk as much as possible. So Foden, I think, if you can get him out, then I probably would. If you can swap him for another Manchester City player, it's a valuable position to be in. And then finally, let's talk a little bit about Sterling's captaincy armband, or whatever you want to do with Sterling. Maybe you just want to have him in your team, you don't want to captain. Because I've seen a lot of murmurings around Twitter and in group chats I've been in that Sterling has obviously been pictured on holiday. And I want to sort of squash this a little bit, because City players were given 2 days off training. That's what happened. Some players have obviously opted to go abroad. Sterling has gone to France with his family. France is literally the next country over. That's not a massive deal. If you went to sort of Edinburgh or something like that, you probably wouldn't be. You'd be thinking, oh yeah, that's fine, that's normal. I mean, the distance is negligible, really, isn't it? It's just the next country over. So it's not that much of a big deal. He's just taken an hour and a half plane trip across the English Channel to go to France. Whatever. Other City players will be on holiday, but they weren't. Perhaps there was no paparazzi to see, because unfortunately, the British media, certain British newspapers, and I don't mean to get political on an FPL channel, but certain British newspapers do target Sterling. So there would have been plenty of other City players. There are plenty of other teams with breaks as well. I know Spurs have had plenty of days off. Kane will be on holiday right now, but he's not getting photographed. He's not being put in these papers because he's not targeted as much by the British media. So in that sense, don't worry about it too much. This is normal stuff. He's going to be back. He's still motivated. He's publicly said he wants 20 goals. He's not going to be out on the lash. He's just with his family. Don't worry about it. He'll be fine. He'll be back and he'll be scoring. Don't worry. I'm more than confident in saying that, because I'm bringing him in to my team for a hit and captaining him. So if that's not a vote of confidence from me, I don't know what is. And it's just a case of how much you value my vote of confidence, I suppose. But there you go. That's all I wanted to talk about today. I mean, it's not all. There's so much I could talk about, but I think those are the main talking points. I know you're probably thinking, why not speaking about the captains this week? I'm going to be doing a whole separate video for captains, and that's going to be out tomorrow. So do stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed, please do consider doing that. Plenty more to come this season, or a couple more videos this season, I imagine. And then over the summer, it's going to be non-stop. I'm not taking a break. There's going to be so many FPL videos out there on my channel, so I don't. Hopefully, you don't want to miss that. Hopefully, if you're not taking a break from FPL, then don't take a break from FPL Mate either. Plenty to come. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the comments. If you've got any more, you've got any questions, always happy to answer. As always answer every single thing you said to me. So yeah, cool. Follow me on Twitter. Do everything. Like the video. Oh, brilliant. Good luck in this massive game week, and I hope you all get the finishes that you're hoping for. Fingers crossed, everyone. Right. On that note, I'll say goodbye. Take it easy, mates. Bye bye.